If you're a frequent watcher of my channel, you'll know that I wasn't exactly big on Disney's twist villain trend, or their current trend of simply not having any villains in their movies at all. But the point is, in the past I dedicated 2 different videos to exploring both when their fad in the 2010s actually began, and which animated Disney movie was the first overall to have a twist villain. And I'll leave links to both those videos in the description in case you like to check them out. Now, one thing I noticed in the comments section of both these videos was quite a lot of people questioning if Gaston from Beauty and the Beast was actually the first twist villain, along with others asking if he qualifies as a plot twist villain or not. And today, I'd like to try and answer this question once and for all and put this debate to rest. And needless to say, there will be spoilers ahead for Beauty and the Beast, as well as a few other Disney movies. So in case you've been meaning to see something and don't want it spoiled, you might want to remain on the lookout. I won't be giving out any other spoiler warnings in this video. Okay, so to give the short answer first, no. Gaston is not a twist villain. Because the whole point of a plot twist villain is having a character that both the other characters and audience think is a good guy, or at least a neutral one, and then having it suddenly turn out that they are actually the bad guy, or at least a bad guy. The entire purpose behind it is so that nobody is supposed to see it coming. And from Gaston's first scene alone, we see him cast in dark shadows, wearing red, a color Disney villains are known to wear, having a smug grin on his face from having just shot a bird, and then arrogantly flirting with Belle and putting down her love of books, intelligence, and reading before stating to LeFou his intention to marry her based solely off her looks anyway. To put it simply, the movie couldn't make it any more obvious that he was the villain if they had a big, glowing sign right next to him stating as much. And, of course, what only further backs this up is his subsequent scenes where he proposes to Belle in, shall we say, the worst way possible, as well as being arrogant and overconfident enough that she'll say yes, that he's already arranged a wedding right outside her door, and when he's down in the dumps over being rejected, what does everybody do? Stroke his already massive ego to make him feel better, only cementing the fact that he loves himself and nobody else. And then he decides that he'll force Belle to marry him by having her father committed to an asylum if she doesn't. As I just pointed out, his first scene alone tells you that this guy is bad news. But if that doesn't become clearer with each and every passing scene, then the viewer simply isn't paying attention, plain and simple. Now that being said, one can make the argument that while it's obvious Gaston is going to be a problem from the moment he appears, what isn't is just how far he's willing to take things, and that's what makes him a twist villain. And that is a fair argument to make, seeing as his initial arrogance doesn't exactly translate to homicidal fear-mongering. But the thing is, just because he takes things further than the audience might expect doesn't make him a twist villain, because it was already obvious that he was the villain. I even made the exact same argument with Mother Gothel in one of the aforementioned videos. In Tangled, it's obvious right from the start that she's the bad guy, and every subsequent scene only backs this up. The only surprise is just how far she's willing to take things, and even then, many are apt to see it coming because of her earlier behavior. And once again, the exact same thing applies to Gaston, only even more so because it's made even more apparent right from the start that he's going to end up causing a lot of trouble. Even if one doesn't see his crueler deeds from later on coming, That still isn't enough to make it a plot twist because his villainy was already firmly established and made clear, making it all the more likely that he might end up doing anything. As I said before, in order for a character to be a plot twist villain, the fact that they're the bad guy has to come as a surprise. That's why Hans, Dawn Bellwether, or technically Professor Callahan are twist villains, because if one isn't spoiled beforehand, they'll never see their true nature coming. Except maybe Professor Callahan, but bad writing's to blame for that. The point is, those movies frame these characters as good guys, so when they're revealed to be the bad guy, it comes as a total blindside. Nobody's going to be surprised by the fact that Gaston is the villain of Beauty and the Beast because the narrative isn't trying to hide it. And not to mention, considering the moral of Beauty and the Beast is that true beauty comes within, it's only logical that the villain would be the opposite of the Beast. Because while the Beast is hideous on the outside and feared by everyone, at heart he's actually a good person and simply needs somebody that'll see the best in him. While by contrast, Gaston is good looking and beloved by everybody in town, while at heart he's an extremely vain and egotistical jerk that only cares about boosting his own ego. And as I explained in my video on the importance of the villain, which you can also find a link in the description too, if Gaston weren't in the movie to provide this contrast, it would have a much harder time getting that point across. In other words, from a thematic standpoint, Gaston's only reason for being in the movie at all is to be the villain, as well as be the yin to the Beast's yang. Because while the Beast shows that somebody who's ugly can be beautiful on the inside, Gaston shows that somebody beautiful can be ugly on the inside. So that's only another reason why it should be obvious right from the beginning that he'll be the bad guy. Because despite not looking like one, he almost behaves more like a beast than the actual Beast does. To put it simply, there are so many red flags surrounding Gaston's character that it's basically a given that he will be the villain, to the point that the only twist that would have come from him is if he didn't turn out to be the bad guy. Even if he takes things further than one might expect, the fact that he was the bad guy is still very apparent. Frankly, a villain whose status as a plot twist is much more questionable is actually Clayton from Tarzan. Because unlike Gaston, it's not immediately clear that he's the bad guy. Sure, he acts like a bit of a pompous jerk, is quite patronizing, and does seem to have ulterior motives for befriending Tarzan, but none of that by itself automatically makes him a villain. It is plausible that he might be a bit unpleasant, but overall just another member of the Porter's expedition, perhaps being a bit xenophobic to contrast with their much more open-minded attitude. But at the same time, once it's revealed that he is the villain, it's pretty obvious in hindsight. But that being said, one can also easily pick up on all the hints that he's not as good as he appears. So it really depends on how perceptive any individual viewer is that'll determine how surprised they are by the reveal. Because again, nothing he does screams villainy, but he also raises some red flags, so it can really go either way, and thus one is justified in wondering if he's actually supposed to be considered a twist villain or not. Because the narrative doesn't just come out and say that he's the bad guy, but also doesn't exactly try to hide it either. And that's not the case at all with Gaston. As I said before, the movie goes out of its way to let the viewer know that he's the villain, so anything bad that he does should be expected. Now once again, one might not see him storming the castle to kill the Beast in a fit of jealous rage and wounded pride coming, but that doesn't automatically make it a plot twist. If anything, it's to show that he truly has become the monster Belle claims he is. But that's definitely not the moment he showed his true colors, as he had already done that way earlier. As I already said, if a bad guy is to be considered a twist villain, then most of the audience has to be surprised by the fact that they are the bad guy. Or on more rare occasions, something is revealed about them that most wouldn't see coming, such as King Candy being Turbo in Wreck-It Ralph. And simply put, Gaston fits neither of those categories. It's obvious right from the start that he's the villain, and nothing is revealed about him that the audience didn't already know. Just because he takes things further than one might expect isn't enough to constitute a plot twist, especially considering he already went to such lengths as trying to have Maurice committed to blackmail Belle into marriage. So after that, it's clear that he'd do anything, especially because he's a hunter. The narrative never hides his true nature or tries to imply he's better than he appears. So as a result, there's no real surprises that come with his character. To put it simply, Disney has had quite a few twist villains over the years, most definitely, but Gaston from Beauty and the Beast simply isn't one of them. Okay, I think that's everything I wanted to cover. So now I'd like to hear from all of you. Do you believe that Gaston, being the bad guy of Beauty and the Beast, is way too obvious for him to be considered a twist villain? Or do you believe it's more surprising than I was giving it credit for? Please let me know in the comments below. And keep in mind that you do not have to agree with anything I said in this video if you don't want to. We all watch movies differently, so if you think I was wrong about everything I just went over, that is completely fine. And thank you all for watching. I greatly appreciate it, and I hope to see you all next time.